I'm going to ask Ms. Hinds to be released this time.
Sir?
Ask Ms. Hinds to be released.
Yes, sir.
Raise your right hand. Do you swear firmly to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I firmly do so.
Please.
All right, now we'll follow direct examination.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ma'am, would you state your full name for the record?
Gale Nelson Walker.
Ms. Walker, just tell the jury a little bit about your educational background, please, ma'am.
Good afternoon. I am a licensed and ordained Methodist minister. I am a registered nurse with a master's degree in nursing. I'm also an attorney. I went to law school at the Mississippi College School of Law. Next, I want to be a hairdresser.
Ms. Walker, you have practiced law in the past.
Yes,
Are you currently in private?
I'm in practice with the Honorable Chuck McRae. My law career started back in 2003, where I was a law clerk for Judge Leslie Southwick on the Mississippi Court of Appeals. And after that, I went to work for McHugh Law Firm in Hattiesburg, Mississippi. After that, I went to work for the John Walker Law Firm in Jackson, Mississippi. Then I prosecuted in the Delta for killing Malone Oliver, who is the district attorney there. I was in Yazoo City, Hollins County, Humphreys Counties, and Yazoo County. And while I was working there, I was recruited by Mr. Smith to come here to work for him as an assistant DA.
Mr. Smith, the
District Attorney Robert Smith. He recruited me from the Delta. It was a long drive. I would go every day, an hour and a half, on the way and then back, and I didn't want to drive that much anymore. I enjoyed my work there, but he offered me an opportunity closer to home, and I accepted that opportunity and came to work for him. When I worked for him, I started working for him in August of 2012, and he fired me in January 2014. He fired me.
Let's talk, we'll get to the details of that. Let's talk about your work in the DA's office for a little bit.
Okay.
Thank you.
When I came here to work, I got a caseload.
Ms. Walker, attorneys I know have a little difficulty with this question and answer process. Let me ask questions and you answer questions.
Sure. Sure.
Thank you very much. We attorney talk about. Now, you went to work with Mr. Smith's office here in Hinds County in August of 2012.
That's right.
Okay. And at that time, were you aware of, did you become aware of a case involving defendant named Christopher Butler?
I did.
Had the case been indicted when you came to work here?
It had been indicted.
And do you know who initially indicted the case?
Armstrong Walters, who was one of the assistant DAs.
Okay. And before a case gets indicted, you worked in a number of DA's offices, as you mentioned already. Before a case gets indicted, do the assistant district attorneys look at the evidence and talk with the law enforcement that's involved in the case?
Yes.
Now, did Mr. Armstrong Walters keep the Butler case after you came here to the DA's office?
Mr. Armstrong Walters was fired before I got to the DA's office, but he had indicted Christopher Butler on the drug charges and other charges and had indicted him.
And did another assistant DA by the name of Shannon Coughlin handle that case for a while?
Yes, Shannon Coughlin had the case before I came.
And did the Butler case at some point become assigned to you?
The Butler case was assigned to me and my trial partner. The way it worked is that each judge, there's Judge Green, Judge Will, Judge Kidd, and Judge Gale. Each judge had assigned to their courtroom 2 assistant DAs. And for consistency's sake, those 2 assistant DAs worked all of the cases that were assigned to that judge. So the Christopher Butler case was assigned to me and my trial partner as we worked in Judge Will's courtroom.
Okay. Who was your trial partner?
Brad Huddle.
And did you and he regularly try cases in Judge Will's courtroom?
We tried cases all the time. Judge Will's courtroom was the busiest. We had to try cases 1 or 2 every month. And in order to have one case ready for trial, we had to prepare 3. Because oftentimes the first one might plea out. And Judge Will was very active and wanted his trial docket moving, so we would always have to try cases in there.
Now, did the Butler case come up for trial sometime in 2013 on Judge Will's docket?
The Butler case was on the docket and it was moving up to be tried because it had been on the docket for so long. And Judge Will liked to have the oldest cases moved up and tried first, and so he could get on to the new ones.
And did you have a conversation with Robert Smith about the Butler case?
Yes, I did, more than one.
And what did he want you to do with the Butler case?
Attorney Smith wanted the Butler case dismissed. He took an extreme interest in that case. He started grooming me and talking to me about that case early on. He would just mention 1 or 2 things here or there, but he wanted the case dismissed, and he wanted me to help him get it dismissed.
And what did you tell Mr. Smith when he was asking you to get the Butler case dismissed?
After so many conversations with him about the case, I told him I didn't want anything to do with it. I wanted him to take it and for him to deal with it himself.
Did Mr. Smith make any statements to you about his belief that you knew Butler was under indictment for possession of marijuana? Is that the case you had?
Yes, that's what the file had, the indictment.
From your review of the evidence in the case, did you find any suggestion that the drugs had been planted in Butler's home?
I did not find any evidence that the drugs had been planted.
Had any of the other assistant DAs who had handled the case before suggested to you that there was a problem with the evidence in the case?
None. As a matter of fact, Shannon Coughlin, who had the case before I did, had gone to look at the tape and did not find anything wrong with the evidence presented in the videotape.
And were you and Mr. Hutto, your trial partner, were you prepared to try the Butler case?
We were prepared to try it according to the information in the file. Every file we get has to have supporting information in there, first of all, to get an indictment. When these cases go to the grand jury, and the grand jury votes to indict a person for a crime, they have to look at evidence and all. So once it gets past that point and it gets to us, then we start talking to the investigators and the people who found the evidence and ask them questions in order to have enough information to go forward on a trial. That file had everything in it that we needed to go forward to trial and to win it.
Okay. Walter, I want to hand you a document and ask you please, ma'am, that you can identify what I'm handing to you.
Judge Manning,
Absolutely.
Your Honor, the court claims this is where I've stated this is not proper with what this does to the body.
Counsel, you may have a valid point. Where are you headed with it?
But the suggestion, you had nothing to do with the case.
All right, well, to that extent, your objections over, there was some inference earlier that the assistant DA assigned to the case was solely responsible for the case. And so to that extent, I'll let you go forward.
You recognize that document? Well,
yes, sir.
what is that?
This is a text message that District Attorney Smith sent to me on August the 6th of 2013 at 11:34 a.m. It says,
Well, don't read it just yet. Into that.
Counsel, allow me to look at it.
Your Honor, my objection should have before the state stands in chief. Go ahead.
Objections overruled on that basis.
You can't do it for please, ma'am.
But they were in law. In evidence. Yes.
Walker, I'm going to place this on the screen over here. So this is a text message to you from Robert Smith. What is he texting you about?
he's texting me about the Christopher Butler case. He said,
Go ahead.
I need to talk to you about Christopher Butler and why a judge is obstructing the evidence from coming to us, and a few other things that I may have to file.
Okay. Now, based on your handling of that case, was the judge had the case with Judge Will?
Yes, it was Judge Will.
Was he doing anything to obstruct the evidence from coming to the DA's office?
No,
Let me ask you, you had, during your time at the DA's office, you had a large caseload, is that a fair statement?
it's a fair statement, about 175 cases.
Okay. Had Dr. Smith ever shown this level of interest in any of your other cases?
No, he had not.
Had he ever specifically suggested to you that he wanted a case dismissed if it was assigned to you?
No, he had not.
When you were preparing your cases for trial, did the MDN have a practice about what they did with their evidence?
Yes.
What was their practice?
Their practice here in Hinds County, as well as Holmes, Hopkins, and Yazoo counties, their practice was to keep their tapes and things of that nature in their possession. They had an invitation where we could go and look at it, where we could see it at their facilities, or they would bring it to us, but we didn't have like the actual tapes in our possession.
And was anything about MDN's practice on the Butler case different from other cases that you had handled with MDN?
They had the same practice across the board from county to county.
Now, did you have occasion to attend a motion hearing where Mr. Smith appeared at the motion hearing on the Butler case?
I did.
And did he appear to be acting in the interest of Mr. Butler at that hearing?
At the hearings, normally you have a person who's for and against. At this particular hearing, in reference to Christopher Butler and the motions, District Attorney Smith was acting as if he were defending Christopher Butler. He was fighting for him.
I've got a court case, this is more testimony, should have been part of the state's case, and there's nothing here that reflects anything that came out.
I'm going to sustain that question.
Let me ask you, Ms. Walker, do you know somebody named Deandra Parker?
I do.
Who is that?
Deandra Parker is a secretary in the DA's office. She was there when I worked, and based upon information, I believe she's still there.
The other part is totally irrelevant, and never mentioned in the defense case. This has nothing to do with the Butler case that I know anything about. It's not relevant.
Sustain it on the rebuttal ground. That name will not come up to this point, so can't be rebuttal. Sustain.
Let me ask this question. Do you know of any relationship between Deandra Parker and Mr. Butler?
Yes.
What is that relationship?
Ms. Parker's boyfriend is best friends with Christopher Butler. His name was Turner. Last name Turner. I think it's Darnell Turner.
Now, if Mr. Smith had not involved himself in this case, what were you planning to do with the Butler case?
I was going to try the case like I did for others. As God is my witness, I never lost a case here in Hinds County. And I believe that God said I would have won that one too, with the evidence that was in that file.
Did Mr. Smith make any statement to you about drugs being planted at the Butler home?
He did.
Do you know what, if anything, he based those statements on?
I don't know.
Have you ever reviewed the tape or any of the other evidence with him before you made that statement to him?
I had never reviewed the tape with him.
Now, at some point, did you and Robert Smith have a falling out about the Butler case?
We did.
And did that have any, you were terminated by Mr. Smith?
I was fired.
You were fired. Did that have anything to do with your handling the Butler case?
Had everything to do with it. Everything to do with it, because he started grooming me, dropping little things along the way. He knew my character, he knew how I tried my cases, and he knew that they were solidly based on the law. He knew that I would win that case if I had tried it as well. Not on my own right, of course God gets the glory, but my thing is, he kept talking to me about things he wanted done in that case. They're against a black man, they planted this in his house. It's not right, he's a good man. And the more he talked to me, the more uncomfortable I felt. I didn't want any part of that because it was not the normal procedure for the cases. He had never done that in any case with me before. There were times when I would try cases, there would be people in the courtroom pointing their fingers at me like, pow. They would take pictures of me in the courtroom on these cases that I tried, and they were not just little light cases, y'all. These were cold case murders. These were aggravated assaults. These were serious cases that I was responsible for trying. So getting back to that, he was not there for me in support. I would text him and say, there are people in the courtroom who threaten me. No answer, no answer. The next day, maybe he would say, I missed your call. He was not involved in helping with these cases. Did not have an interest like he did in this one, with Christopher Butler.
May I approach you?
Yes.
Walker, I'm handing you another document. Tell
a text message from District Attorney Smith to me.
Okay. And, Your Honor, we intend to that as a state's next decision.
All right, I'll let you admit it and mark it out.
Mr. Walker, I'm going to place this text up on the screen here. This is another text message you received from Mr. Smith. Double text messages, is that what that is?
Yes, sir. Yes.
You said a moment ago that he was grooming you, that he was wanting you to be a success. Is that the way you understood these emails, these text messages?
I did. He's telling me I was brilliant, powerful, and great. And I was doing what I should do. And he admitted he needed to do more. He invited me at some point when I was ready to try a high-profile case and get media time that I deserved.
And before Mr. Smith fired you, did he ever give you an opportunity to work on a high-profile case with media attention?
There were a couple in Judge Will's courtroom that we had, but I always wanted him to get the praise. I wanted him to get the recognition, and I never appeared in a media blitz for any attention for me, even though he wanted me to. I didn't feel comfortable doing that because I was working for him. He was the DA.
Now, when you, well, let me ask you this way. How did you learn that you had been fired by Mr. Smith?
Poor place, it's not all about how she learned to do it. That's something, they told something about the butler.
Objection overruled. You may cross the line.
I had worked all day, and at 5 o'clock we had a surprise baby shower for Brad Hutto's wife. We were all at Babalu Restaurant, and Mr. Smith and maybe 4 other people were not there, but everybody else in the office was there. It was great. I mean, we were happy, having a wonderful time. And at the end of the shower, one of the investigators in our office told me that he needed to walk me out of Babalu. So we walked to my car, and on the way, he told me that I was fired. And he gave me a letter and said that when I left work that day, that the DA had a team of people pack my office, and all of my things were in the trunk of his car. And he had the letter and my boxes of things, and I was fired and didn't know why.
Did you even have an opportunity to go back to the office?
It's not right, it's not important.
I'm going to sustain it on the relevance fund.
Let me ask you this, man. Did you talk with Robert Smith about the reason for your being fired?
I texted him, I didn't get an answer. I called him, and I didn't get an answer. And after days went by, some of my coworkers called me and told me what he had told them. He had gone back into some things that happened on.
Poor place objection when her co-workers told her about what she was about.
It's the same.
Here's that.
It's the same.
Were you ultimately told by Robert Smith why he terminated?
The only time I learned why he terminated me was when I went to the EEOC and complained about wrongful termination. And that is when District Attorney Smith replied that it was for 2 reasons. One reason was because of some checks that I had written back in 1996 up to 2004. The reason was that I was in a marriage and I was not getting all the financial support that I needed for my 4 children. So back at that time, I would write checks for food and different things for my children. I was never arrested, never prosecuted for those. All of those were paid, the face value, plus the merchant fee, the return bank fee, and then the DA fee. Yes, I did that, but I made it right according to the law. That was in the past. The other reason he gave was because I had used the office letterhead to write a letter to a storage company. I have a storage room with my parents' things in it, they're both deceased, and a lot of old files from my private law practice. I was behind on the monthly storage fee. And the lady at the storage company asked me to write her a letter proving that I was employed. I wrote the letter using the DA's office letterhead. I signed my name, and I did tell a lie in the letter. I said, I'm waiting for the state to pay these fees. After I did it, I went to District Attorney Smith and told him about it, and I showed it to him. And he said, everybody has problems every now and then. No big deal. That was in August of 13. He told me to forget it and move on. That letter existed as I continued to prosecute cases, and then for him, that letter and those checks existed when I first started here. He had knowledge or the opportunity to see all of those things when he hired me. I came in running like a freight train, doing what he asked me to do with all of that going on. And I did it for him to get the press, for him to get the attention and the acknowledgement. And then 6 to 8 months after he told me those things were okay, I get fired. When I started avoiding him about Christopher Butler, someone cracked the computer system into the bad check unit. Somebody went in there and found out that information and wrote an anonymous letter saying, do something about her because she's putting people away. Some anonymous person was able to get the code to the bad check unit and go in there and write that letter that brought all of that out.
Now, Mr. Walker, regarding the bad check for suspicion, did you discuss that with Robert Smith?
I did discuss it with him. He was not surprised.
What place I did, it's been flooded. They could have fired over somebody breaching the security system of the bad check unit. It's just not relevant. It's like it's casual.
One more question to you.
Somebody think came out of court with offense.
Relevance range sustained.
And did you have a discussion about going to the FBI with this?
I did.
And what was Mr. Smith's reaction?
Mr. Smith told me that he didn't want the FBI in his office, but he gave me permission to get the MBI, the Mississippi Bureau of Investigation. And they did come in, and they started investigating, and they wanted to go into the computer system to do the forensic review to see who accessed my records, because there were only passcodes that were available to maybe 3 people. And on the day that they wanted to do that, he called them off the case and wouldn't let them come back. He meaning District Attorney Smith.
Bear with me.
Yes, sir.
Walker, I'm going to say, I can ask you, tell us what that is.
Yes, this is a series of text messages from District Attorney Smith to me and my answers to him.
Number 2 of that is to stay connected.
No, of course, I fail to say the relevant, in any event, it's not designed to throw out as part of the defense case. I can't understand the rate. It's not part of the defense case.
I see what you're doing.
Walker, this is a text message exchange between you and Robert Smith. That's your recollection?
Yes.
What are we talking about here in the entry where it says Wayne went to review tape with Shannon? This was before y'all got here.
This is about the Christopher Butler case, and District Attorney Smith was kind of upset and concerned that Brad, my trial partner in Hutto, had not discussed or let him know about the Christopher Butler case. And so, in the exchange of the emails, he texted me and told me that Wayne went to review the tape with Shannon. Shannon was the assistant DA who had the Chris Butler case before Brad and I got it. And so he was telling me that Wayne, who was the investigator, and Shannon went to look at the tapes before we got it.
Somebody had already been looking at the tape back in 2013.
Yes, and per our discussion about this, our follow-up discussion, District Attorney Smith told me that Shannon did not see any problems with the tape.
Which I move to strike.
It's the same.
It's a statement from the defendant.
What Shannon says is not.
Let me ask you, Mr. Walker, you were assigned to Judge Will's courtroom. Was that all the time that you were assistant DA?
The whole time I was here in Hinds County.
Okay. Did you have occasion from time to time to seek to null prosecution of Judge Will's courtroom?
Yes.
And did Judge Will require a written motion before he would grant, or some explanation before he would grant null prosecution?
Judge Will followed the law. He followed the case law, and he followed the administrative law. If there was a case that needed to be non-pros or dismissed, there was a procedure for it. And Judge Will made sure that we followed that procedure. That is, explain why this needs to be dismissed. Give me the foundation. I need it in writing. Give me the supporting facts. And sometimes he would even have a hearing in reference to asking the officers or investigators, how did this come to be indicted in the first place? And then we would have to unwind what happened based on the law and the supporting facts and testimony. But there was a procedure for doing that.
Judge Will's handling of non-cross motions the same as other judges in Hinds County?
It was the same as other judges in Hinds County based upon our information of how the procedure worked here, as well as Holmes, Humphreys, and Yazoo counties.
Cross-examination, move on. Move on, how are you?
Good afternoon, Attorney Wade, how are you?
Ms. Walker, give me the time period you started working as an assistant district attorney.
From August of 2012 to January of 2014.
And give me the date that you were first assigned to put to Robert Judges.
I don't recall the date.
Who assigned you to judges?
It was the procedure that the case was assigned to Judge Will. And whatever was assigned to Judge Will, of course, was assigned to Brad and I.
All right. You filed, well, I tell you, let me ask you to identify this document here. It says second amendment complaint, Gale Walker versus Robert Smith. And see if you can tell us what this is.
Thank you. Yes.
What is this?
This is a complaint that I filed against District Attorney Smith for wrongful termination for him firing me over not handling the Christopher Butler case the way he wanted it handled.
Look at the last page. See how many pages it has.
Third,
Before, please, we move before to see this document evidence.
Here, Judge.
No objection, no.
It's been made and marked as a secretary.
Ma'am, first, before I do that, you testify.
Oh, I'm sorry, you need a letter here.
It's exhibit D105. I'm looking at the date item. And the date this document was filed was October 31st, 2006.
no, sir.
That's not correct. I'm sorry, October 31st, 2016.
That is the second amended complaint, the date that was filed.
All right. When, first of all, after drafted this, who wrote this second amendment complaint?
My attorney and I,
Is that Mr. McRae?
Mr. Chuck McRae.
That's sitting right over here.
Yes,
Now, you had earlier filed your own complaint.
I did. I had called your office to see if you would handle the case for me, and I was told that you would not because you were good friends with Mr. Smith.
I see. When did you file your first original complaint? Is that on file in the federal courthouse now, your first complaint?
Yes, it is under that same case number.
Now, do you know, without looking at the complaint, do you know how much of what you put in the first complaint is in the second complaint? Do you know, or the second? Is everything you had in the second one also in the first one?
I would have to talk to Mr. McRae about it. I can't say word for word. I did the first one on my own, and then after I got counsel with Mr. McRae, he was more knowledgeable about it, so
All right, but in order to check to be sure that what you originally said, we'd have to get the first amendment complaint and compare that to the second. Correct, or the first complaint?
yes.
Did you tell me about when did you file your first complaint? When did you do that?
It was, had to be early 2015, either late 2014 or early 2015.
All right. I'm looking over here at this 30-page complaint. looking at, a lot of this is just identifying who the people are. And it has jurisdictional things in it. Then it has facts. Turn this over here. One of the things you said is the audit committee, I noticed.
He did.
And it looks like the first thing you claim you were fired about is reporting violations of the no smoking law. Am I right?
That's
Looks
right.
like the first complaint you made was that you were fired because you reported violations of the no smoking law.
That's right, and that was around the same time that I refused to meet with him and talk with him about doing things on the Christopher Butler case. It all collides together.
Or if you don't mind, ma'am, I'm just going to ask you what's in the complaint, is the reasons you were fired. And if I'm understanding this correct, the first claim that you make in this complaint on page 6 is because you have reported violations of the no smoking law.
That's right.
And you have a lot of details in here about you reporting violations of the no smoking law.
That's right.
And then on page 8, it has about 4 paragraphs regarding Christopher Butler. And it said you were suspicious about Christopher Butler.
No, I was suspicious about District Attorney Smith talking to me about doing things with the case because it was not what a prosecutor should be doing.
Well, here's the first question. I don't have here your first complaint that you filed. Do you know whether or not Christopher Butler is in your first complaint that you filed on your own?
No, he's not.
In other words, when you filed a complaint on your own, Mr. Butler was not mentioned.
He was not.
And then by the time this complaint was filed, it had been in the news that Mr. Smith had been arrested because this was filed in October 2016. Right?
That's right. But it was also in my text messages. It was also in my mind about things that we had gone through over Christopher Butler's case. And the reason District Attorney Smith fired me was because I would not get that case dismissed.
Let me stop you just a minute, ma'am. You filed a complaint on your own, setting out the reasons why you were fired. And then the complaint that you filed on your own, that complaint was filed before Mr. Smith was arrested, correct?
Yes.
And in that complaint, you did not say anything about Christopher Butler having anything to do with the reasons you were fired, correct?
That's correct.
What all did you claim in your first complaint were reasons you were fired?
Basically the same thing until I started going back through all of my documents, my emails, my text messages, and pulling the pieces together about Christopher Butler.
Let me stop and interrupt you. The only thing that you changed from the time you filed your first complaint to the time you filed your second complaint, your second amendment complaint in October of 2016, was the fact that Mr. Smith had now been arrested, correct?
Wrong.
All right, this says that you told him you refused to ask for continuance and told him to go himself and ask for continuance. That's what it says down at 39, right? See that? In other words, Mr. Smith told you to ask for a continuance of the Butler case, and you told him, no, you go yourself and ask for it.
That was the graduated point. All along, he had been asking me to do things with that case. I would avoid talking to him about it. He would send me text messages, we need to talk. All along, he talked to me about trying to get that case in a position to make it go away. When he said, get a continuance, that's when I said, no, take it yourself and you do it.
All right, let me go through these things here. Just the other reasons you said. You said here, another reason for his firing you was personal use of the office letterhead. And you said you had admitted to Smith that you made an error in judgment and asked for forgiveness. Right?
That's right.
Now, earlier, did you tell us that you had written an untruthful statement in a letter, on the letterhead? Is that what you told us earlier?
That's right.
Is an untruthful statement the same thing as a lie?
It is.
And what is it that you said it was untruthful.
That I was waiting for the state to pay the storage fee, and that was not true. You missed the first thing in that paragraph when it says, I went to him to tell him about the letter.
And we'll hand you this document, see if you can identify it. Understand counsel, there's no objection to this document.
Well, no objection, I'll let you admit it tomorrow.
That's us in the office. Now, this says, where you're writing the storage company, I think, I have been waiting for approval fees from the state for payment of storage fees. See that?
That's what I've been telling you about.
And at that time, you were an assistant district attorney making how much money now?
I don't remember how much I was making.
But you told the storage company in July of 2013 that the reason you had, I take it the reason that you weren't paid your storage was for waiting for a state payment.
That's what I've been telling you about.
And you told them the proper paperwork had been submitted.
I did.
Now, is this true letterhead of Dr. Smith's office, or is this some letterhead that you redid?
This is the letterhead that was a template in my computer. Every assistant district attorney wrote letters to opposing counsel, wrote letters to MDNs, MDI. This was the template that was in the computer that was in my office at the DA's office.
Ma'am, isn't it true that you redid the letterhead to show yourself as being the assistant district attorney and not mention any other district attorney?
I did not. That was done when I started working on my computer that I was given to work on.
So the only thing false about this is you claim you have this paper coming from the state.
That's what I've been telling you about, sir.
All right. This goes on to say conspiracy and retaliation. And I think that this relates to the Christopher Robert case too.
It
That
does.
was added after Mr. Smith was arrested.
It does.
That's part of the added after Mr. Smith was arrested. Correct?
Yes, that sentence.
And then the next thing is, this is another reason for your firing, or false grounds for your firing. You claim that your parking space name tag has been vandalized and Mr. Smith didn't acknowledge your complaint.
This is not false grounds for my firing. These are things that started happening to me when I refused to help him get rid of the Christopher Butler case. Someone went to my parking spot at the courthouse and vandalized my nameplate with my name on it. I told the district attorney about it, told him that I needed to see if there was any video footage to see who did it, and I never heard from him. His administrative assistant, after I inquired about it, said they would check on it, and they never did anything about it.
Okay, so you're complaining about he's not investigating vandalism of your name tag.
Yes,
And does that have something to do with your being fired?
yes. It was intimidation to get me to get out of there or to do what he wanted me to do to help him get rid of that case.
All right, so the fact that your name was vandalized in the parking lot, somebody vandalized your name tag, has something to do with the fact that you wouldn't do what he wanted to do about Christopher Butler.
Yes, let me tell you something. When it came to Christopher Butler, District Attorney Smith became a totally different person. He took on a different personality, he had a different drive, he had a different motivation, ambition, and goals. Nothing stood in the way of him and getting rid of that case for Christopher Butler. Nothing or no one.
Ma'am, did anybody ever tell you up until we sit here today that allegations were made that Christopher Butler was being offered a suspended sentence or no jail time if he would give some information about Robert Smith? Have you ever heard that?
That has nothing to do with me. No, I don't know about that.
You didn't know anything about that?
All I know is that he tried to get me to help him get the case dismissed, and a series of events, strange events, started happening to me because I wouldn't cooperate with him, even to the point of losing my job. I enjoyed working for the state of Mississippi. I enjoyed getting vindication for the victims of people who were killed and laid out in the street with blood dripping everywhere. I enjoyed my job. He had no right to do this because of Christopher Butler and take away a civil servant who wanted to help victims.
Ma'am, who told you that the vandalism of your name tag, not investigating the vandalism of your name tag, had something to do with Christopher Butler?
What else did it have to do with it? Give me an idea. Maybe you know. Maybe you know.
Maybe I know why your name tag was vandalized.
You're asking me. I'm telling you it's because of Christopher Butler.
And based that on what, ma'am?
Based it on everything else that happened and me getting fired at a baby shower
Why didn't you
for
put
no
that
reason.
in the complaint, ma'am?
Because I went back and looked at my emails and reflected upon the events and prayed about it.
Let me look at this. You got an intimidating phone call from an anonymous person wanting to know if you knew Jesus. See that?
And MBI investigated that as well, yes.
I'm sorry, who? Indiana?
MBI.
Right. Did they ever find out who called you and asked you if you knew Jesus?
They knew the number that it came from. They couldn't finish their investigation because Attorney Smith called them off.
All right, and then like this is about a letter you got from a public defender.
The person that cracked the computer system to get the check history on me wrote an anonymous letter to the public defender and basically told the public defender, this is in her past. How can she put people away? She's putting people away. Y'all need to do something about her.
I'm sorry, somebody wrote an anonymous letter about a public defender or about you?
About me and my check history mailed it through the United States Mail to a public defender, telling her about it.
Let me see if I understand. Somebody sent an anonymous letter to the public defender talking about your history of giving bad checks and wanting to know how you could be a district attorney when you were giving bad checks. Am I right?
That's right.
And that's also your tribute to Christopher Butler.
I do, because there were only 3 people who could get into that check system. It was District Attorney Smith, Deandra Parker, and one other lady, but only 3 people had passwords into that system and could get in there and look at those documents.
Like, how many bad checks did you write?
Between 1996 and 2004, probably 7, 8. This was a time when I was going through a bad period in my marriage. Had to buy food for my kids. I didn't want to go on food stamps, but I paid everyone. I paid the check fee, the merchant fee, the DA fee, and the bank fee. They were places like Jitney Jungle, Piggly Wiggly, Albertsons, Kroger, those kind of places.
And this next part is about the computer breach investigation by NBI. And then it looks like it's come over here, and you say it was because you said it was race and gender discrimination, you talk about employment discrimination over here, that was what you were talking about. See that?
I see, yes.
because there was a white female fit better than you, and that had something to do with your firing?
Yes, that white female had used the office letterhead to write a letter to the Supreme Court.